This video is for all my fellow noisemakers out there. I just finished editing the latest episode of the Book Marketing Simplified podcast for my lovely wife, Jen. And something that I haven't seen a whole lot of people talking about is the mastering process that is usually used a lot in music, but for podcasters, I don't see a lot of people doing this. So on my master bus here, I have my Console 1 plugin. I've got some like tape saturation going on. I've got a couple of equalizers. I don't just do anything except adding some analog color. But then the important parts over here, I've got the Drummer S73. This is all by Softube. It's a limiter with some color. There's the Vice limiter, MM1 maximizer, and then another Vice limiter on the very end here. All this to try to get me as close as possible to the minus 16 LUFS loudness that we get pretty close as I'm editing.
And this was pre-social media.
As long as I'm around 20, but you know, it varies. And then I don't stress about it too much because once I'm done, I will bounce this as a WAV file and then open that in RX10 Advanced. Standard also has this, but first I will run the adaptive phase rotation box checked on the phase tool. See how the wave pattern kind of goes up and down between our two voices. That phase adjustment, and you can see there's even a few little transients that kind of clip and go. You can see the true peak is at +2, or I'm sorry, 0.2 dB. And the loudness I've got just a little low at minus 18.6 LUFS integrated from this loudness control tool. And I've got this set to the podcast delivery. So it's showing red there because it's just a little too quiet. So the first step is I do the phase so that, and I already rendered it here so you don't have to wait. So then you can see that it balances everything up and down so that we don't have some peaks that are way up at the top and then some that are, you know, and all this space on the bottom. Let me go back to the original. So that's before the phase rotation, see, especially right here. And then after phase rotation, it balances everything out nicely. And then what I do is I will run the loudness control once that phase is rendered, and it'll nail the loudness. And let's wait for it to process here, doing the integrated. Minus 16, true peak -1. So that's exactly what we want. So now I started with this after those the mixing tools in my DAW and export as wave, and then I end up with this. And then I will go up here to File and Export MP3. I do 160 kilobits per second because that's the lowest at which I don't hear artifacts. If I go down to 128 for stereo, I start to hear some digital artifacts with the compression. 192 is good, and that's pretty standard, but it gives a slightly larger file size. We want it set to constant bit rate, so 160 for stereo, 80 for mono if you're doing mono, but I do stereo because of the music. So yeah, and then I bounce the MP3 and then publish that to my Captivate.fm account for the Book Marketing Simplified podcast. So hope that helps.